Hey everybody, Foley here for the weekly news from the 27th of February to the 5th of March, 2023. Okay, so we're going to jump into it. We have today some updates. So, Elden Ring is getting an expansion that may go into its biggest mystery, Mikola. And if you haven't played Elden Ring, you've no idea what that means. Okay, anyway. So it has been rumored for a while that Elden Ring was going to get DLC. A lot of the From Software games have received DLC in the past. All the Dark Souls titles have, Bloodborne has, Sekiro has not. It's kind of the outlier. It's the one that hasn't received DLC in the past. Anyway, that doesn't seem to be changing. It's been quite some time since Sekiro came out. I doubt there's going to be DLC now. Anyway, Shadow of the Erd Tree. The only thing that has been released is this kind of blurb from FromSoft. It says, "Rise, tarnished, and let us walk a new path together. An upcoming expansion for hashtag Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree, is currently in development. We hope you look forward to new adventures in the lands between." This is miles away. This is months and months, maybe years away. Anyway, for fans of Elden Ring, hey Melvin, how's it going? For fans of Elden Ring, who, you know, may want to know what the fuck is this about. Anyway, if you have played the game, you'll know Mikola, who's this character in the bottom right hand of the art. Can I misbehave now? I guess. Oh, wait. Ah, fuck, I forgot to update the thing. Thanks, Melvin. Yes, you can, if you like. Sorry. Let me update the stream stuff. Just chatting. This is not a VR stream. Alright, good enough. There we go. Anyway, thank you for that, Melvin. Alright. Yeah, so Mikola down here is a pretty important character in the Elden Ring series, or yeah, series, I was gonna say, in Elden Ring lore. They are the androgynous twin of Melania. Supposedly is even more powerful than Melania. According to her, as anyone who might know, Melania is the most difficult boss in the whole game. There is a video of me losing my mind trying to fight her over on the YouTube archive channel. I did beat her eventually, but holy shit, did it take a toll on me. Some interesting things to point out here. The Erd Tree is an actual tree in this and not illusory golden thing. It's an actual tree. And there's some ghostly plants around Mikola that look like Trina's lily. There is some lore in Elden Ring that Mikola and Saint Trina, or Saint Trinia rather, might be the same person. It was epic, that video. It just brings back PTSD to me. I'm not looking forward to fighting her again. I'm really not. I'm hoping there is new cheese, so I don't have to do that shit again. But yeah, people who are, you know, deep in Elden Ring lore will note some very strange things from this artwork. And, you know, might be some cool things down the line, but who knows when this is actually going to show up. Because it's, I would say, at least a year off, if not more. Moving on, Hitman Studio IO Interactive has announced it's making an online fantasy RPG. So, Hitman, IO Interactive are probably best known for the Hitman series. They've been working on that for 4,000 years or something since they were founded. Have they ever done another game? I'm not sure. I think they did the Kane and Lynch games. That's them as well. Okay, so they have done some other things. And they're currently working on James Bond. So James Bond by way of Hitman seems like it would be, yep, that seems like it'll be a pretty cool game. But apparently they are also going to be working on an online fantasy RPG, a world and a game built from the core. Sorry, we got bots. 1 second. Let me just get rid of them. Goodbye, bot. Nobody likes you. And that's the end of them. Right. I lost my train of thought. Yeah. Online fantasy RPG, a world and a game built from the core to entertain players and expand for many years to come. So live service, MMO type deal. This is pretty outside of their wheelhouse. So I'd be interested to see how they, how they perform at it. The Hitman games, the most recent ones anyway, are like very big sandbox levels. They have a lot going on. There's a lot of different things to do in them. But they're also predicated on the fact that it's only you fucking about in that level, They can afford that level of interactability. When there's tons of people there, I don't know how well that's going to scale, but hey, they seem to think it'll work, so good for them. Let's see how that goes. No news on what it's called or when it's going to be released or anything like that. They're just saying, yeah, we're working on it. Okay, so a trailer for a game called The Thaumaturge. This is from 10-Bit Studios, I think. The guys behind This War of Mine and Frostpunk, that are both kind of base management games that have some deeply morally ambiguous decision-making to be done in them, heavy survival connotations and stuff like that. The Thaumaturge looks more like an isometric RPG. It's got a bit of... So the way it was described, it's got a bit of Disco Elysium to it, in that there's a bit of like detective thing going on in the background. I don't think it's going to have the whole existential crisis, introspection thing that Disco Elysium have. This is more the kind of, if you literally just look at the UI, it's got that kind of deal going for it. And other things about the Thaumaturge, it has these kind of demonic summoning kind of thing. It's not just for combat, although you did see some small bits of combat there as well. It's mostly for helping you navigate environments and things like that. This is all we know about the game. There's this trailer, and then there was a tone-setting ZG trailer earlier in the week as well, to give you an idea of where they're going with the game. It is set in Warsaw around the beginning of the 20th century, so they would have just been annexed by Russia at this point. So there's going to be a lot of, like, generational trauma and stuff like that going on in the game. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm liking the general art direction and stuff like that. So, I'm interested. Again, no idea when it's coming out or when it's ready or anything like that. The Wolf Among Us has been delayed. The Wolf Among Us 2 is going to be delayed into next year to avoid crunch. It's good and bad, obviously. I would very much like to play a sequel to The Wolf Among Us. But that's fine that it's been delayed, particularly when we have this quote from the CEO, Jamie O'Tilley. I've done crunch, I don't want to do it again, and it's not fair to ask it. You can't plan a business around it, so yeah, part of it is about maintaining a healthy work culture. We don't want to burn out our good people. It has been incredibly difficult to recruit the last 2 years between COVID and the labor markets and the growth in the games industry. So, certainly burning people out or grinding them down is the wrong thing to do long term. It's not how you build a business, and as an industry, we're terrible about it. We burn our people out, we burn our best people out faster, and as an industry, if we're going to continue to grow, we have to stop it. We just have to stop doing it and make better choices. Cool. Good stuff. And he's putting his money where his mouth is. The game is going to be delayed. It should be noted that this Telltale Games is not the same as ye olde Telltale Games. The company was disbanded, sold off, and then resurrected with the same name, but it's very much not the same people, and that kind of thing. So the original Telltale definitely had a burnout issue, as they were making so many games. So it's good that they are taking this approach. I mean, yeah, disappointing. I'd like to play The Wolf Among Us 2 soon, but there are so many other games I could be playing in the meantime. It's fine. Take your time. It's all right. I don't mind. Yes, there is currently a Humble Bundle out to help Turkey and Syria earthquake relief efforts. There's about 40-ish games, I think. There's a couple of the bigger ones here. XCOM, Ghost Runner, Gotham Knights only just released. Pathfinder Kingmaker, which is really good. CRPG. There's also a bunch of books and I think software development stuff as well in there. I think the full... Sorry, it's 20 games. Sorry, 20 games from Turkish developers specifically, and then a bunch of other games dropped in on top of it. There's a lot of really good ones in there. And I would encourage you to check it out, particularly since it is ending on the 8th of March. So get in there fast. In there fast. Okay. And then last for our updates for this week, the Epic Games game, the free game coming this week, so on Thursday-ish. It's very nice of that. Yeah, Humble Bundle, yeah, that's great. I'm kind of hoping that... So Humble Bundle had recently had an issue in that they had changed the buyout percentages between how much money Humble Bundle was making and how much the charity was getting, so I'm hoping that that has kind of gotten better recently, in that they brought back the sliders and stuff like that, so I'm hoping that gets better. Anyway, Call of the Sea will be free on Thursday, which is when the updates for the Epic Games Store go out. Call of the Sea is a first-person narrative story deal where you are heading to this mysterious island that you see in your dreams a lot. It's got a lot of Eldritch, Lovecraft, you know, stuff going on with it, but it takes a slightly different approach. It's kind of more of a coming home story than a horror tale. Like, it's taken from the approach of, hey, this thing that's happening to my body where I'm, you know, mutating or whatever, it's fine. I like it. It's great. That's more of it. So a playthrough of this. Did you see my playthrough? Because Call of the Sea has featured as part of Foley Plays Games for a Bit, which is a game series we do where we take a look at newly released games. And at the time, Call of the Sea was a newly released game. So it's somewhere in that playlist. Go have a look over on the YouTube channel. Anyway, moving on. Right, monthly games. I forgot to get trailers prepared for this, so we're just gonna have to go through it. That's no worries, Melvin. Alright, so we're just gonna have to go through the text, because I did not prepare trailers for these ahead of time. Anyway, Trooperbrook. So these are games with gold for March. Trooperbrook, Sudden Strike 4, and Lamentum. I've heard of Lamentum. The other two I have not. Right, Trooperbrook. Charming 1960 German village, where not all is as it seems. Get trippy in the single-player sci-fi mystery adventure game. Okay, the world of the game is beautifully built using meticulously handmade miniature scenery. Discover reality rifts. Encounter crazy scientists and fight for true love as you step up to save the world. Okay, that's lofty things for a game I've never heard of. Sudden Strike 4. Play the original World War II RTS classic. I'm already falling asleep. Lamentum. Delve deep into nightmare-fueled madness. How far would you go to save the one you love? Not very. As stated before, I'm very lazy. I'll just find a new one to love. It's okay. Young aristocrat Victor Hartwell. The cost to save his ailing wife might be unthinkable. Explore the mystery and encounter horrific creatures. It sounds like Amnesia. Sounds a lot like Amnesia. Alright, anyway. That's your games for... Although the art style is very... Not Death Trap Dungeon, that's a TV show. When is it? Darkest Dungeon. Yeah, anyway. For PlayStation, so the PlayStation Plus games were actually announced during the State of Play. I didn't bring it up in our recap because I wanted to wait until the games with gold ones were ready as well. But for March, the PlayStation Plus games are going to be Battlefield 2042, which has gotten better, I've heard, but it's also still a military shooter-y type deal that I don't really care about them for that much. Minecraft Dungeons is... I think Minecraft Dungeons is like the Diablo clone for Minecraft. It's like an isometric action RPG thing, but your Minecraft assets instead of Diablo. And Code Vein is... People keep calling it Anime Dark Souls. And yeah, it kind of is Anime Dark Souls, but it's got its own stuff going on. It's got a bit of God Eater in it as well. Code Vein is... You are a vampire, effectively, but you're not a Western vampire. You're a Japanese vampire. And the Japanese vampires, or anime vampires rather, are very weird. They're always very, very weird. You have like this claw that you use to feed instead of your own mouth. You like impale people with it and it sucks the blood out and it goes in. I don't know. It's weird. It's Dark Souls though. Very much so. It's good though. I liked it. Anyway. That's some of the games you can play eventually at some stage, but what if you wanted to play something right now? Scars Above launched this week on Tuesday. We played it as part of Foley Plays Games for a Bit on Friday. I'll talk more about that in the channel update. It's okay. Not great. Anyway, moving on. Also, we have Wulong, Fallen Dynasty. Wulong Fallen Dynasty is from the same people who made Nioh, as it just says in the trailer. Nioh and Nioh 2, as you might imagine, Team Ninja. This is effectively... So if Nioh was Dark Souls... I hate doing these kind of comparisons, but it's easier, I think, for a lot of people. If Nioh was Dark Souls, then Wulong is Sekiro. You know, that's a bit reductive, because there's a lot more going on in Wulong than there is in Sekiro. But it is a bit more focused around parrying, I guess, is the way to look at it. But it does still have a lot of Nioh to it. Nioh was set in a sort of fantasy feudal Japan. Wulong is set more in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms period of Chinese history. Despite the lofty name, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, it was a horrible age of warring states. So, yeah, it's not a fun time. But it's another kind of fuck you really hard game, basically. If you like that kind of thing. Demos are available as well if you want to check them out. You know, if you want to see what you're getting into. Is that still... No, it stopped playing. Okay, good. Alright, anyway. Unfortunately, though, it is now time to talk about the worst parts of the video game industry. Right, Beyond Good and Evil 2 studio head, no longer at Ubisoft. This follows some bullshit that's going on here. So, Beyond Good and Evil 2 has recently eclipsed Duke Nukem Forever as being the game, the longest development time of any video game. So Duke Nukem Forever tapped out at like 11 years. Beyond Good and Evil 2 has now pushed into like 12 years. You know, but also important to point out, Duke Nukem Forever was not in active development for all those years. It was in and out, started, restarted, and so on. Beyond Good and Evil 2, I would imagine, has had the same issue. So coming off some news from last year, the studio now faces a labor investigation by local labor authorities over an unprecedented number of developers experiencing burnout and going on sick leave. So they're getting news, I believe, in Montpellier. Since it's, you know, France, there's pretty strong labor laws around there. So they do kind of get news when employees, workers, go on extended sick leave and stuff like that. That does get pushed up to the labor relations authorities and stuff like that, so they're well aware of these kind of things. They're like, hey, this is happening a lot at this company. What's going on? Why are people taking like extended absences here? As pointed out here in this Kotaku article, the game is technically not even in full production yet, so it would be in what's called pre-production or pre-viz, where they're still sort of prototyping a lot of things and figuring things out, where they want to go, the art style. And the fact that people are getting burnt out at this point, not even when they've hit full production, when you typically expect it. You shouldn't really expect it, but it is, unfortunately, a thing. But it happening in pre-production is a bit ridiculous. Anyway, so because of that, there has been an inspection from this French authority called Inspection du Travail in Montpellier, according to 3 sources who told Kotaku. From Ubisoft, they have said, the health and wellness of our teams is an ongoing priority, citation needed. Given the length of the development cycle with Beyond Good and Evil 2, the Montpellier development team is undergoing well-being assessments through a third party for preventative measures and to evaluate where additional support may be needed. So they didn't decide to do this out of the kindness of their own heart, you know. This was forced upon them by Inspection du Travail. They were effectively told, you need to do better with your people. What you're doing is borderline, you're hitting potentially illegal things here. So they've brought in this third party to sort of shore up their side of the argument, kind of thing. They're not doing this because they actually give a shit. Anyway, studio told staff last week that managing director Guillaume Carmona, who had previously been absent since the beginning of the year, this will be important later, is not returning and has left the company. No reason was provided, citing legal confidentiality, but again, a reason will be very obvious in a minute. Carmona had been with Ubisoft for nearly 2 decades, so when somebody who's been with the company for that long and has risen to those ranks suddenly leaves, fucking shenanigans in the background, basically. Carmona himself declined to comment. So why? Why did he leave? Despite them giving no, shall we say, official statement as for why he left, there's a pretty obvious one here. His departure comes after a year which saw dozens of developers at Montpellier going out on extended leave for stress or sickness. Some came back, others eventually left the studio. This sparked a visit from the French Labor Investigation Office last December. So last December, Labor Investigation comes in. Carmona doesn't come back to work. Since the beginning of this year, he hasn't been at work. I wonder what happened there. I wonder, did he go, oh, this guy needs to fucking go. Or we're taking you to court. I think is what probably happened there. Again, no official thing, but yeah, that's probably what happened. Anyway, it also coincided with Beyond Good and Evil 2's recent shifts in direction, which saw a lot of people leave. Senior creative director Jean-Marc Geoffrey was removed. Charles Gaudron has become the new game director. Benjamin Dumas has left. Guillaume Brunier remains executive producer, though he'll probably be replaced soon enough as well. So there's a lot of chopping and changing going on in Beyond Good and Evil 2, which is why a lot of this burnout and sick leave thing is going on, because leadership keeps fucking changing. That's a problem. And you can even track this all the way back, as Kotaku did here. Who wrote this? Ethan, okay. Ethan Gach wrote this, going all the way back to the original games director, Michel Ancel, who was originally going to be game director for Beyond Good and Evil 2, was reportedly toxic to work with while also often absent from production. He ended up resigning in 2020 amid a larger reckoning with workplace abuse at Ubisoft that Ubisoft has still yet to actually address. Anyway. Some bullshit happening with Beyond Good and Evil 2. Anyway, moving on. Okay. We gotta talk about Activision Blizzard, because we always have to talk about them. Anyway, Union sues Activision, claims that... Hang on, have I skipped a bunch of stories? No? Okay. Anyway. Union sues Activision, claims it unlawfully fired 2 QA testers, and then there's a response from Activision we'll get to afterwards. So the Communication Workers of America, CWA, who had previously already taken Activision to court under the whole shit that came out about, the Cosby Suite and all that kind of shit, have sued them again. CWA has filed charges against Activision claiming it violated several workplace laws in relation to firing 2 QA testers. Numerous workers protested the return to office plan, citing cost of living concerns and the impact it would have on their co-workers who might be forced out of their jobs. We talked about this last week, where Activision suddenly said, lol, you're all going back to the office. If you don't like it, fuck you. And they had pointed out, people have moved since, to deal with cost of living because they can do their job remotely. They don't need to commute, extra money for that kind of thing. At the same time, Activision had also cut bonus pay and stuff like that could have been used for cost of living things, but no, they said, no, fuck you. In response to the office working plans, 2 QA testers expressed their outrage using strong language. In response, management set up disciplinary meetings where both workers were fired for probably saying fuck you. I mean, the company had already said fuck you to them, but I don't know. Anyway, charges have been filed specifically against Activision CEO Bobby Kotick, which is funny. It's funny that they're suing him specifically and not the company. But that's probably also why this more than likely won't go anywhere, unfortunately, but whatever, and allege that the firings were made in response to the employees' engagement in protected, concerted, and union activity. CWA has argued that the use of outbursts and strong language in the context of concerted activity by employees was protected by the National Labour Relations Board. This will be important in a minute. They also allege that Activision improperly denied a request to have a co-worker witness the disciplinary meeting, which preceded the termination of their employment, which they are allowed to have. For far too long, Activision has gotten away with treating its employees, especially QA testers, like disposable workhorses, firing 2 employees for joining with their co-workers to express concern around hasty return-to-office policies is retaliation, point blank. When faced with unfair treatment by unscrupulous employers like Activision, workers should have the right to express themselves, and they do, as part of the National Labor Relations Board. So Activision did respond to this statement, and they said, the company is focused on building a culture of inclusiveness. Lol, sure it is. We have a workplace code of conduct that none of our upper echelon abide by. That has been consistently shared with employees, but not C-suite, it seems. And when the policy is clearly violated by C-suite, we take appropriate disciplinary action. No, they don't. Using abusive, harassing, or threatening language. Remember, Bobby Kotick threatened to actually kill somebody, and nothing happened to him, but okay. Towards colleagues is unacceptable, and we are disappointed that the CWA is advocating for this type of behavior. As the CWA pointed out, you are allowed to use this kind of language when it's about labor relations. It's protected speech, effectively. As in, it supersedes the company's code of conduct. But anyway. Activision don't practice what they preach when you start to make six figures, it seems. Moving on. EA. Okay, so the other side of the shit coin of the video game industry, I don't know. EA lays off over 200 Apex Legends testers over Zoom. 200 quality assurance testers at Baton Rouge in LA abruptly laid off during a surprise Zoom call this week. The team predominantly worked on Apex Legends. This is some sources to Kotaku. Some came out through Twitter. Some were contacted directly. EA just fired its entire Baton Rouge studio, which is essentially their entire Apex Legends QA staff. The news came to staff abruptly. Some had only just finished their night shift. So they came off their night shift and suddenly... Wait, what? Corpo doublespeak? Yeah, I know, Doomshining. What's the world coming through? Corporations not abiding to the words that they set out. How's it going, man? Some have only just come off their night shift. Can you imagine? Alright, it's 6 a.m. I've just finished work. I'm going to bed. Wait, I gotta jump on a Zoom call. Mandatory. Fine. What is this? You're fired. Oh, cool. Thanks. Fuck you. Alright. QA testers were invited to unscheduled mandatory Zoom meeting at 8 a.m. Sorry. They might have got 1 hour of sleep. Today, with Magnet Global, who is their contracting agency, the entire QA team at Baton Rouge office was then disbanded. So it's like, well... Notice? No? Like, some notice, please? No, you're just done. Full-time supervisors were not told in advance or given time to prepare. They were allowed to collect personal belongings, but only under supervision of security, which is... Yeah, fine, standard practice. Could you imagine? Under supervision of security, 200 people were escorted out of the office. Like, what kind of fucking army did you have with you to manage to be secure in that sense? But anyway, obviously, shitty practices. This will be, you know, contested and sued because that is blatantly illegal. Although, I don't know, it's United States of America, who knows, maybe they're allowed to do this. Firing 200 people with no notice in the middle of the week. They're getting severance, but it will be in no way, you know, comparable to, like, the contracts they were under, so... I would hope this gets, you know, contested in court. And there's 200 people, there's clearly a class action that can happen there as well. And they deliberately targeted quality assurance testers, so there's discrimination, and that kind of standard operating procedure. Yeah, it probably is, unfortunately. I don't know enough about US LA law in particular. It may be an at-will state. It sounds incredibly disgusting coming from European. It's like, how did that ever get through? That's incredibly bad. How have you not burned down your government buildings over something like that? Moving on. This story came out earlier today. It's why I was late getting started, because I wanted to read through it. Austrian court says FIFA packs constitute gambling, orders PlayStation refunds, specifically PlayStation for some reason. We'll see why in a second. It's the latest European legal battle against the virtual football Goliath. So, this again is the foot stuff. This is buying random packs of football players and getting garbage, usually, and then buying again and getting more garbage, and so on and so forth. No worries, Melvin. Talk to you soon. So, several Austrian FIFA players sued Sony in 2020, specifically Sony, not sure why. This is Austria now, not Australia. They're different. Think, the hell is Austria known for? Sausages, beer, Oktoberfest, that kind of thing, and not spiders that want to murder you. So, this suit included one minor. They said that they had spent over €400 on the football simulator, and they wanted effectively to be like, I'm not sure what exactly the crux of their argument was, but the class action lawsuit ended up being basically it's gambling, and it's illegal gambling because they don't have a gambling license, so it's that kind of thing. So, their lawyer, Ulrich Salberg, claimed that the ability to spend money on FIFA's random pack system violated the country's gambling laws, and as it turns out, the judge agreed. EA has yet to respond about this. Because the packs themselves, the actual worth of the items can go up and down, it's effectively considered to be theoretically offering a financial benefit, which ends up being gambling, and that violates the Austrian Gaming Act. This will absolutely be appealed. Definitely. This is a very small court. This will work its way up and probably be squashed eventually because they're... I would say it'll be squashed because they're targeting Sony instead of EA. The targeting of Sony itself is probably what will torpedo this in a higher court, because they're like, why them? Why not Microsoft? Why not Switch? Why not Nintendo? Why not Steam? Why not any of these other companies? Why not EA? Like, you know, the company itself. As I feel it'll get thrown out, and then maybe they'll come back and be like, okay, fine, we'll sue EA instead. But it's not, obviously, this is not the first time that FIFA football packs have come up against European regulatory bodies. Last year in the Netherlands, they were fined €10 million for keeping loot boxes in FIFA, because they were told to get them out, and they didn't. They just decided to pay the fines instead. But as a consequence, or not as a consequence, subsequently, they have been removed in a couple of European territories, notably the Benelux territory, which is, for people who don't know, is Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. So that kind of group. You can't buy FIFA loot boxes there. So we'll see what comes of this. This, again, only came out today. There's been no comment from EA or Sony or whoever about this kind of thing. But this will almost certainly be appealed. Okay, and then some maybe good news? Possibly? I don't know. It could be really bad news as well. We got to be careful here. Square Enix CEO who constantly pushed NFT games to be replaced. Yosuke Matsuda served as Final Fantasy Publishers, Square Enix CEO for 10 years. Now, I want you to look back at the last 10 years of Square Enix. Do you think that was good? Do you think those were good years for Square Enix? Or do you think they were bad years for Square Enix? They were not great. He is now set to be replaced by a relative newcomer. It's claimed that this change is needed in order to chase more technological innovation, which is why this might be bad news. They might be bringing someone in who's even more into NFTs. Takeshi Kiryu, the new CEO, or provisional CEO? CEO-elect? I don't know how you put that out. Has only been at Square for a couple of years, but prior to that he was general manager at Dentsu Innovation Initiative, who had a lot of... It was like a business group that explored technology and how they could make money off it, specifically the metaverse. Square Enix's blurb about this is, under the rapid change of business environments surrounding the entertainment industry, the proposed change is intended to reshape the management team with the goal of adopting ever-evolving technological innovations and maximizing on the creativity of the company's group in order to deliver even greater entertainment to its customers around the world. What the fuck did that say? That said nothing. A paragraph that somehow said nothing. It's impressive, really. Anyway, Square Enix hasn't been in a great place recently. Its stock price has trended down for the past 5 years. It struggled to find hits outside of mobile stuff and Final Fantasy specifically. Has recently doubled down on Final Fantasy VII Remake stuff, but has also cut loose on, They're North American guys. Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal. You know, they lost Tomb Raider, they lost Deus Ex, or sold them rather, for like a piddling amount of money. It was a tiny amount of money. They sold Tomb Raider for like a penny, basically. And then is routinely disappointed by sales because they have ridiculous, what's the word? Expectations for their games. Like they expected Tomb Raider reboot. Like, fuck, when did that come out? Anyway, the most recent reboot of Tomb Raider, they expected that to do like a stupid amount of money. And it did extremely well, but just not well enough for them, and they considered it a disappointment, which is fucking stupid. Anyway, yeah, this is again another barb about Yosuke Matsuda pushing NFT shit when, like, their company's biggest IP is about the heroics of eco-terrorism, just Final Fantasy VII. To also have the CEO be all in on NFT climate-destroying technology, it's a bit of a look, you know? It's not a great look, but it's a bit of a look. Anyway, that's it for industry bullshit, but one last stupid thing that has come about because of the success of The Last of Us TV show. The Last of Us gameplay videos are getting copyright strikes because of the HBO show. So music that is played, that is shared between the show and the game, is causing copyright strikes for videos that have been up for fucking years at this point. And suddenly they're getting copyright strikes. Like, it's not official or confirmed that it's because of HBO, but it's only happening since the TV show came out. You have to wonder, so this copyright strike means you can't, the red no symbol there effectively on YouTube means your video is not searchable or findable. You can't even link to it. It's nothing. It's dead weight, basically, there. 40-50 videos of mine have been striked for using Last of Us music. It's crazy. You can't even upload a playthrough without it being striked now. Strucken. Guess I need to be extremely careful with having any music in my videos. So, yeah. HBO don't own the music. They don't have a copyright. They literally do not own the copyright of this music, and yet they are able to claim because they're a big company and they can get away with it. Like, you're not going to push back on it. You don't have the money to fight them in court for somebody else. Like, you'd be fighting them on behalf of Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog themselves should be doing this. Anyway, this is the bullshit that is the Content ID system on YouTube. Anyway, we will leave Wolong to loop. Anyway, that was the news for the 27th of February to the 5th of March 2023. Some cool updates there, some new games announced. The Thaumaturge looks interesting. Whatever IO Interactive's fantasy RPG is, we don't really know a whole lot about it yet, but I'm hoping it will be... Hitman games have been really good. They're really well put together technically. There's a ton of interactivity and a ton of creativity in those games. I'm hoping they'll be able to bring that to their online RPG, but I'm curious how they'll do it, because that's a lot. That's a lot for having, you know, hundreds of people playing all at once. Shadow of the Erdtree, all we know is the key art, and that's it. It's a lot of just inferring what's going on there. We don't really know what's happening. Yeah, I'm interested to see more about Mikola. There has been some people who have done data dives on Elden Ring and have found unused quests and unused allusions to Mikola and Saint Trinia and quests that could have been part of that. There was a whole dreamwalking quest line that was cut from the original game, and that may have something to do with Mikola as well. So it could be that it's cut out of the original game and they're going to bring it back for the DLC. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. The Wolf Among Us 2 being delayed is fine. And the reason they gave to avoid crunch is, you know, it's good reasoning. Hopefully they have enough money to keep playing their developers in the meantime, if they're getting enough investment from that kind of thing. And they have, you know, the financial security to not crunch, which a lot of the time, that's the reason crunch happens. It's like we are going to run out of money if we don't get the game out, so we have to crunch. Which is poor management again. It always goes back to poor management, but at the same time, you can't just not crunch then, otherwise the company folds. I think the problem is that they don't do a retrospective and go, hey, why did we have to crunch? Can we maybe not do that next time? And they don't. Anyway, monthly games, it's not particularly interesting, I guess. The only one that interested me was Code Vein, and I've already played it. I've been meaning to go back to it. I effectively got to the point in that game that is, as said before, it's anime Dark Souls. And they very much have an Ornstein and Smough version in that game, and that fight's really fucking hard in Code Vein. And that's kind of where I stopped, so I might go back to it. I have been considering doing a Mazocore series, where I do Dark Souls, Nioh, Code Vein, Mortal Shell, etc. You know, those kinds of games. I've been thinking about it. Bloodborne, Sekiro. Oh, I forgot those. Anyway, new game releases, Scars Above, Wolong. I've only played the demo of Wolong, and I liked it, but it's a bit expensive right now, so I'm gonna wait. And also, I haven't finished Nioh or Nioh 2, and I would honestly rather play them. And then industry bullshit and what have you. I know, we're gonna move on. So, channel update. Do 1 second. So, here's where we're at as of time of broadcast. So this is our game mosaic shortlist type thing. Again, if you're not familiar, the yellow wedges on the side of the golden wedges on the side of them mean they're full LPs. Green tick means the game has appeared on the channel and probably won't appear again for a very long time. Yellow dots means it's currently being played on the channel. The grey clock means it's on its way. And if it doesn't have an icon on it, I don't know when it's coming up. Eventually. At some stage, it'll show up. So this is the plan effectively up until the end of June for 2023. This may change. For instance, The Wolf Among Us 2 isn't coming out this year anymore, so that'll have to be replaced. Anyway, so what is happening? Well, what happened last week? So last week, or this week. Last week? I don't know what way to put this. We played Scars Above on Friday. Scars Above is a third-person shooter that is sort of trying to be Returnal and Dark Souls at the same time, which you may also know as a game called Remnant from the Ashes, which is also a kind of Dark Souls, but a shooter type deal. That's kind of what they're going for here. It kind of works, I guess. It's a bit janky because it crashed like twice in the first 10 minutes. Before I even got to the game proper, it was just like the opening bit where I was walking around the spaceship. We hadn't even started the game yet, and it was already crashing, which is not a great look. Once it got into the game, though, it was stable. There's some interesting ways that the game gives you new abilities, and that you're like investigating the world. You're seeing that, hey, this thing produces like a freezing enzyme kind of thing. I wonder if I can repurpose it for, you know, a gun and so on. And then the guns themselves have comboing abilities off each other. So you effectively have one gun and you swap parts out mostly. So you have like a gun that can freeze people. And then if you shoot them with the electric gun as well, you get a combo because, you know, water conducts electricity and what have you. There's also... Go back, please. No? Backwards. Thank you. There's also... what did I want to say? Yeah, the guns combo off each other. We didn't get to the fourth gun, which I assume is an acid gun, and that would combo off the fire component. The boss fights are interesting enough. The first boss fight, you had to effectively use the 3 guns you had available to you at the time. You know, the fire one to set this kind of... I don't know how they produce this kind of flammable gland or whatever, but it's effectively a big weak spot. You know, you just shoot that with fire, it blows up, sets them on fire. Cool, lots of damage. But then you can also freeze them. It gives you a chance to shoot the weak spot easier, but now that you've frozen them, fire won't really work because fire and water cancel each other out. So you need to use the electric gun to do extra damage and so on. It's that kind of that's an interesting concept. It's just the game itself doesn't feel great to play, and enemy hitboxes are kind of bullshit. It's like the boss hitting me from a good 6 feet away and somehow still managing to hit me. That's like, it's unfair. I don't know if I'll keep playing it, to be honest. Anyway, moving on from there. So PSVR 2, we played that yesterday. There were some shenanigans around technical difficulties around the beginning. It was mostly to do with me not understanding how the PSVR 2 pass-through works. So PSVR 2, if you're not familiar, PSVR 1 did this as well. It can also display what I'm seeing on the TV, and this is for other people watching, and potentially other people playing as well. As at least PSVR 1, you could have somebody playing VR and somebody playing flat at the same time, and they would play like against each other. I haven't seen anything like that for VR 2 yet, but I guess it could happen. Anyway, I figured it out. Basically, it only does the pass-through when you're playing the game. If you're just sitting in the menu, or if you're just sitting in the cross-media bar for the PS5, it won't push anything out to Elgato and subsequently OBS, and subsequently you guys, you'll only see a black screen. So I figured that out. We played a bit more of that. We played a good few games. We played The Call of the Mountain, the Horizon one. We played Resident Evil 8, which was hilariously short demo. It was hilariously short. I was expecting a lot more out of that. The Horizon demo was fairly lengthy. We did play a good bit of that. We played a bit of Pistol Whip, which is a rhythm shooting game, which was a lot of fun. We played a bit of the Humanity beta, which is a third-person Lemmings type of game in VR, and third-person VR is really weird. As I've said, I think a couple of times now, third-person VR is like playing with toys. It's like you have this little diorama just doing its thing in front of you, and you can like look in and look around it and stuff like that. It's really cool. I really like it. I'm not sure how well that translates onto stream, but that's how it worked out. Anyway, we are probably going to look ahead on that later. But what is happening next week? So next week on Monday, we have the Resident Evil 4. I still have to finish Separate Ways, which I haven't done. We were meant to play that this week, but I wasn't able to because I was so fucking tired on Monday. So I'm hoping to do this Monday. Mostly because I have to, because it's the last chance I'll have before the Resident Evil 4 remake comes out. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to play through Separate Ways, which is Ada's side campaign. We're about halfway through that already, so we just have to do the second half. But the second half, despite it being a half, is much longer than the first half. So second part, I guess we'll say. But yeah, that is the plan for Monday. Wednesday, we started a new Foley Fable. The Foley Fable series is where we take a look at games that have a strong narrative focus, or a lot of the game is on the game's story as opposed to its mechanics and stuff like that. So we started Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1, some shenanigans around a diamond and people being murdered, and maybe there being shenanigans around that. Sherlock is coming back to the island where he grew up, and there's some repressed memories and trauma around that is the kind of gist of the main plot. And then there was some elephant murder going on right at the end, and I had made a joke for the go live notification, which was like, since it's supposed to be Sherlock origins, he doesn't have his elementary My Dear Watson thing yet, because he hasn't even met Watson yet. So I was like, elephantery, I was just messing around with the words. I wasn't expecting there to be a literal elephant murder plot thing happening. I didn't think that was going to happen. So that was weird coincidence. Anyway, we'll be continuing Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1 on Wednesday. Thursday, continuing Breath of the Wild as we're want to do. We spent a good while last week just getting to Gerudo Town. Seems like from Rito Village, getting all the way to Gerudo is actually quite long. Takes a while. But we finally got there at the very end of the stream. We managed to actually reach... Technically, we actually haven't reached the town. We've reached the oasis in front of the town. But that will be the plan this week, will be to effectively do the Divine Beast, the camel, in that area. And at that point, we'll have done all of the Divine Beast, and then I will have to come up with a reason to put off finishing the game. Come on. So I'm sure there's something else I can do in the meantime. Anyway, the plan for Thursday will be the Divine Beast. Friday, there will be no stream because I have D&D, but on Saturday, kind of want to keep going with the PSVR 2 stuff. So No Man's Sky had a fractal update, which is a big graphical update for them, but it also added PSVR 2 support. So I'm thinking jump back into No Man's Sky. I haven't really played it since it launched, and there have been a shit ton of updates since then. The game has changed dramatically since it first launched. So I guess we'll see what all the changes are like, and also how it plays in PSVR 2. So that will be the plan for Saturday. So that is our schedule for next week. So Monday, Resident Evil 4, Separate Ways, trying to finish that off. Wednesday, continuing Foley Fable, Sherlock Holmes, Chapter 1. Thursday, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Gonna try to do the Divine Beast in the desert area. No stream on Friday, because I have D&D. And No Man's Sky VR on Saturday, and we'll see how that goes. Potentially Resident Evil 4 may spill over into Sunday after the weekly news recap, if I don't finish it, because I need to finish it, because the week after that I am away, so I won't be able to play or stream or anything like that. And the week after that, Resident Evil 4 remake comes out, so I won't have time. Basically, I need to finish that this week effectively. Right. Anyway, that is the plan for next week. So yeah, that's it for next week. And that was the news and the channel update. I'm gonna head off now. As you can probably tell, my brain is not functioning correctly. I'm gonna play through a bit of No Man's Sky, the opening of it at least, to kind of get used to the controls, and we're not spending a whole lot of time in tutorial land on Saturday, and I'll probably do that now while I'm still not motion sick from yesterday, and we'll try that out. Anyway, thanks for dropping by, Doomtrain Inc. and Melwin, and anyone who's hanging out in lurking in the background. It's always appreciated. If you want to catch up on any of those games mentioned, you can check that out over on the YouTube archive channel, youtube.com/Doomtrain5. Otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow for Resident Evil 4. Right, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.